Okay, so survived the first week of classes, or I should say the first full week of classes. Texas A&M this semester decided to start on a Wednesday, which is unusual, and kind of threw my timings off, to be honest. In fact, I found out as I was setting up next week's class that I screwed up some of the due dates for my undergraduate technical writing class. Not in a way that really matters, not in a way that radically screws things up, but it was amusing nonetheless, and I'll have to adjust my schedule accordingly. In classic 2020 fashion, the first day of my graduate course, which is the only course I decided to teach synchronously online, Zoom went down. The great nationwide Zoom crash of August 2020. I'm sure epic sagas will be written about that day now. But it was my first day of class, first time meeting two of the students in that class. It's a really small class. And I had no backup plan, no plan B, no contingency that we had agreed upon earlier if Zoom went down. So, in some ways, so perfect for the start of the fall semester in the middle of the pandemic. At the time, though, I was really annoyed, and there was nothing to be done for it. I had lots of people offering helpful advice, and I know that they meant well. And there were workarounds. In their defense, there were things that I could have done to make class happen that day. And, so I could have logged in through a different device. I could have sent them a PowerPoint that I was going to give and had them go through the slides as I talked them through it. I probably could have tried a different platform, but I decided that just couldn't work. But, sometimes I think you just really have to cut your losses. Don't get me wrong, I admire people who can persevere, and I have an admiration for people who do. For instance, my longtime mentor loves to tell the story of how she got delayed on a return trip and was going to miss class. So she held class over phone. She was in a telephone booth. Her students were huddled around a speakerphone, and she held class. And there's part of me that admires that so much, that tenacity, that stick-to-itiveness, that dedication to students. But there's another part of me which thinks that as unusual as those circumstances are, as much as they can be a kind of learning experience for students and for teachers, learning happens best in a particular kind of environment. And I don't think that people learn the lessons you're trying to teach them if they are more concerned and frustrated with having to change things at the last minute. A great example of that face-to-face was one semester, my very last day of class. For whatever reason, the university had scheduled something else in my room, and they hadn't told me about it. And so at the very last minute, I had to have somebody standing outside the door to direct people to another room that we had to find at the last minute. Yes, I had class. Was it effective? Probably not. I was frustrated. Students were frustrated and confused. In some ways, it would have been better just to have canceled that class. And so that's what I decided to do this week, was just regroup, cut my losses, and regroup. I didn't make the day a complete loss. There was a PowerPoint that I was going to give about communication theory, and I recorded that, did a quick edit of it, and got it posted I think the same day. If maybe it may have been on Tuesday rather than Monday, but I got it done. So students at least had something of what I had intended to impart, but that wasn't the platform I had imagined. There were other things I wanted to get done in class, and so I'll have to make that up. And I think that that's okay. I think I would rather make it up in a future class and maybe rearrange some other material later down the road than have those sort of foundational lessons I had hoped to impart, hindered by collective frustration. And so I was really grateful to all of the people who tried to help me get that set up, and I was sympathetic to their desire to help me make class happen. But I just think that having class for class's sake is not good teaching practice. I don't think that our job as educators is simply to transmit information. I think our learning objectives need to be paramount, and what is it that we want to teach that day. And if the environment isn't there, whether it is because of some kind of technical difficulty like it was this week, or whether students just aren't there for whatever reason, or even if I'm not there for whatever reason, my mind isn't there for whatever reason, then maybe it's okay to let go of that class. I've never been a person to think of teaching as a number of hours in a classroom or a number of bits of information transmitted over my lips into students' ears. I think that education is about creating an environment in which people can learn the things that you have in your learning objectives that day. And so, yeah, I was frustrated. Yes, it was the worst way to begin a semester in so many ways. But I think that we can make that up. I think that I can make that up. I think that I can rock the second day of class rather than the first day of class, and it'll be fine. So here's hoping that week 2 goes better for me and for all of you as well. Be gentle with yourselves, kind to one another, and thanks for watching.